In fact, when we made the third cutoff, Stefan was there and the timekeepers were there, and they were like, "Yeah, we're just waiting on one more team, 33," and that was us. And they're like, "Wait a second, like, what are you guys doing here? How'd you make up all that time?" Like, they were shocked to see us, and I was like, "Yeah, we just, it's like now we're feeling good." And it
It's
was,
like,
that was up until the end. That's how we felt up until the end, with the exception of Orno. We also had a very hard time there. A lot of shuffling there, but
Yeah, or no, that's another one where it's like, yeah, you think running, 12 miles 2/3 of the way through the race is like, oh, that'll feel great. Just to like open the legs, shake the legs out a little bit. No,
hardly.
it's not like that at all.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 266 of the show. Welcome to the 4th annual Partners Month. Now, this is a month where we highlight one of our favorite things about swimrun, which is the team aspect, which is working with a team is so different from any other sport out there, especially in the endurance space. So it just makes it super fun. And to kick it off this month, we have an amazing team, amazing story. Just warms you right up. We have Team Sight the Beam. This is Justin Young and James Noonan. They recently completed the Attila World Championship
Yes.
a few months back, and they're here to basically share their super stokedness for the sport of swimrun.
Yes, a fellow California team from Northern California. I'm from the Sacramento area. Sight the Beam, a reference to the Sacramento Kings, the basketball team, and Justin and James have been in there from a big way. Coming on strong and hot, which is the best way to come on there. But yeah, Partners Month, always such a great time of year. And what we really try to do with these shows, and if you are new to the sport of swimrun or you're curious about what other teams, just go search our other episodes from February. Every episode in February is a partner. So, it could be just friends like Chris and I. It could be father-son combo, mother-daughter, sisters. We got a great slate of partners for you this month. People that they met 5 minutes before the race. It takes all kinds.
Yeah, really cool story. And we sort of joke around that it's like, how can you tell the same story over and over? Oh, how'd you find out about swimrun? Oh, tell us your origin story.
Yeah.
We actually have some really interesting conversations coming up this month. All the interviews are either recorded or scheduled already, which is,
it's nice. Way to go, Low Tide
Look at
Boyz.
us. Yes, we're ahead of the curve. This is great. But yeah, we have a really great month ahead. But before we get to that, if you are new to the sport of swimrun and you're interested in learning more about sort of the partner aspect of the sport, we actually have a couple shows. We have episode 4 way back.
Way back.
Don't hold it against us, people.
time.
Don't hold it against us. We have episode 4 and we have episode 111 that are all Swimrun 101 episodes about partners. So that's a great place to go. Just like, I want to understand this a little bit more. What are the dynamics? What's the communication style? All that stuff. We break all that down for you there.
Tips and tricks, if you will, from, we've done now 5-6 years of swim runs, 20 plus swim runs, hours and hours, and talking through the teams, everything that we've learned from our personal experiences, and then everything that we've absorbed and knowledge that our guests and experts have shared on our show. We try to bring that to you as well.
Yeah, and Chipper, I was trying to rember kind of what
the origin of Partners
Month?
the
origin story. Was it just like we just backed into it?
I think it was one of these things about, it's Valentine's Day, Valentine's month, sort of, and like, partners, like, let's do that. And it kind of caught on, and I think we got a nice reception from everybody about it. And it was a time for us to be intentional and intentionally chat with teams and have team-centric episodes and kind of highlight the cornucopia of team options there are out there, which is like such a cool piece of it. Like, rarely, I don't even know any other endurance sport that you could have such
except like adventure racing and things like that.
Adventure racing, but it's like there's so many cool stories specific to teams on how they became partners that it like is just a cool month to kind of highlight it. And one of the years there was like 6 Thursdays somehow. It defied the calendar. So we had many episodes.
Yeah, and I think one year we also had, friend of the pod, Brad Stolberg on teamwork.
Yes.
So, master classes abound. So make sure you check out all the February episodes in our back catalog. And finally, before we get to the interview with James and Justin, congratulations, everyone.
way to go. You made it into Attila, the
Yes.
Swimrun World Championship.
Yes, we're sorry for those that missed it. We're stoked for those that did. And yeah, great year ahead for all of you. Now,
Before we get started, if you didn't make it in, there's still the wild card slot. So you can submit in for a director's choice. So hope is not lost.
yeah, if you got a good story,
And
share it.
A good story can definitely get you in. So keep up on the training, keep the hopes and dreams alive. It can happen. We've heard of it happening. Like, hey,
Sure.
the race is in September and August. They're like, hey, congratulations, you got in. Hopefully you've been training all summer. So
Yeah.
there's still a chance. But Swimrun Christmas, which again, we were this is just something that I don't even know, we threw out on the show as like,
Yeah, it was
it's like
a
Swimrun
meme
Christmas.
thing. Yeah, it's like
We're
Swimrun
trying to be
Christmas is
funny.
coming. Yeah.
And now Attila is literally using it to describe the day. And it's
great.
We're just tickled.
It is. It's fantastic. Yeah,
Yes.
it's also a great, very creative on the meme side. So if you haven't checked
Easy.
out the Low Tide Boyz on Instagram, check out all the memes, give it likes, share it, do whatever you want there.
Yep.
And then I guess it bears mentioning, we've already heard from a lot of teams, incidentally, since Swimrun Christmas.
Yes.
If your anxiety is above your base level,
That's normal.
yeah, it's normal. And we have you covered. If you head over to the Low Tide Boyz, we have we call a lot of things ultimate, but this is certainly the ultimate guide to the World Championship. And there we have all of our episodes around the World Championship, including a walkthrough with the one and only Oscar Olsen. We have a course breakdown that's broken up into 3 parts. And I mean,
It's how we approach the race.
and kind of not to toot our own horn, but people tend to think that it's mandatory listening.
I think it's good. It definitely boosts the download numbers, because we're all about the downloads these days. What we've heard from talking to, like our guest we had on last week, Nico from Team Onvol, chunking this 70-kilometer adventure swim run into more digestible segments. And we kind of chunked it up in these 3 segments. And then Chris had the great idea. Why don't we break down and go really deep on these, so we have 3 kind of distinct segments of there. That is we have one webpage on our site under the resources. We have any Attila Swimrun World Championship episode that we have done is on that page with our our thinking, gear, everything from gear, course, nutrition, mental readiness,
race reports from good swim runners
and us. But yeah, I mean, we really try to have it all on there for you to go back and reference, because we provide it for you because this is the stuff that we were looking for, and this is the stuff that we were doing when we were doing this race. So
yeah, we get it, and it's like anything, you basically, you write the book that you need. So we produce the content that we thought would be helpful to us and helped in our anxiety. Certainly in year 1, we did this countdown to Attila, basically like 6 episodes, one every month, where we just, really nerded out on a lot of this stuff. But hey, got us to the race prepared. We were controlling all the variables that we could. And we're really excited for everyone on their journey. You can always DM us, send us an email if you have any questions. Happy to answer them. And stay tuned for more Attila content as we go forward. But I think with that, let's kick off Partners Month.
Let's do it. Let's kick it up to Sacktown. James and Justin, team Sight the Beam. They're right in there, sighting away.
Doesn't it go up though?
It does go up.
Can't miss it.
You can't miss it. It's purple. Just like their tether.
All right. Very excited for this conversation. To kick off Partners Month 2025, we have Team Sight the Beam, Justin Young, James Noonan. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. We've made it.
That's right.
You made it somewhere, that's for sure. We've known you guys for a while. Justin, you and I go back over a decade. I think we've known each other for like almost 15 years, which is kind of wild. Also makes us old men from our days in Golden Gate Triathlon Club. Why don't you tell us your swim run origin story, and then we'll follow up with James. You give us yours, and then we'll put it together as as Team Sight the Beam assembled like Voltron. So why don't you tell us your swim run origin stories?
So like swimrun origin stories for me, like going back to Golden Gate Triathlon, days. Did I think 2017 Santa Rosa Ironman, and I was burnt out and done with doing like triathlon at that time. And we'd happened to move up to Sacramento that same year. And then it wasn't until 2019 when our buddy James LIE from Golden Gate also was like, hey, you want to do this thing where like you run and swim between islands? And none of us like knew what the hell he was talking about, but I thought, oh yeah, that sounds cool. And so we trained like once, I think in Alameda, where James was living at the time, and then did Catalina, and we're in for a rude awakening of what it was, but got hooked. And then, as you know, with the pandemic and everything shutting down, I didn't start training again until 2021, 2022, I think. And that's when James and I met serendipitously on Strava, the only people on Strava at Folsom Lake doing running and swimming.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Folsom
So
Lake, that's a good
James-
segue over to you, James.
Yeah, definitely.
So I grew up swimming competitively, like all youth up until the end of high school. And then when I went off to college, took like a solid 4-year gap of doing any physical activity. So when I graduated, I was like, I want to get back into shape. So I started running, doing like 10Ks, halves, full marathons, and was really enjoying the running. But I wanted to do more swimming, and I was living in the North Bay in this time. So the San Francisco Bay was like right there, and there's all these cool open water events out there. So Alcatraz swims, the bridge to bridge swim out there. So really got into open water, and then figured I want to take this to the next level. And at the time, triathlon was the only thing that made sense. I'm already running, I'm already swimming, I might as well buy a bike and get out there and do it. So jumped into that with a full head of steam, did Ironman Arizona in 2013, and then just was like totally over it. I was like, I don't want to be on a bike again, ever. Just put the bike away and really dropped off, any kind of organized training, any big goals and events for a couple of years. We'll jump into maybe an Olympic or a trail run or whatever. And it wasn't until after COVID, like 2021, the end of the year, where it was like things are opening up again. There's like this new kind of, it's great, you can get out there and do stuff. So I was like, I want to sign up for something big. And I kind of picked up where I left off, and I was like, Ironman California, let's do it. It's in Sacramento, we'll just jump right into it. But as a tune-up to that, I was like, I want to do some big trail run, right? It was like way too cool out here, the 50K. So I signed up for that and had a blast doing that. And then took a week off, recover, and then started getting into triathlon training, and I had the same experience. This is not fun anymore. The bike is not fun. I want to do something that kind of strips away the long hours on the bike. And I had always been kind of tangentially aware of Swimrun. I read some article about Attila a decade ago, but it was this thing in Europe that just nobody here was doing. And then in 2022, Total Body Fitness, Bill over there, rolled out Folsom Swimrun. And I was like, this is great. This thing that I've always wanted to do is now in my backyard. And I signed up immediately and just dove all the way in. And I think I found your show very shortly after and just started cranking through episodes. And I think Justin, the reason that we found each other on Strava is I think you guys gave him a shout out training for the Folsom Swimrun. And I was like, I'm training for the Folsom Swimrun. We should link up and go.
Look at that.
And so we reached out, started training, and then the rest is history. We just went all the way. Within a span of 3 years, we're out in Sweden, in the Baltic Sea, bouncing around.
Well, pace yourself.
Well,
Pace
yeah, I
yourself.
mean,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Whoa, James, hit the brakes, man, hit the brakes. We got a ways to go here.
That 2022 when we met up, we had trained a little bit too, and then decided, I think the week before the race, we're like, hey, do you want to maybe partner up? And we decided, and then 3 days before I got COVID, so I didn't end up racing.
Oh,
That's right. Oh my God, I totally remember. Okay, we're gonna see you out there, right? No, man. Got
oh
COVID.
yeah. But love to hear the sort of local community-based races and TBF and Bill at doing the Folsom Swim Run. Such a great event, and they do many multi-sport events. It's pretty incredible what Total Body Fitness is doing over there in the greater Sacramento area. So if you're in the 916 area code or in the vicinity there, definitely check them out. Folsom Swim Run will be there again this year. But yeah, so you had the Folsom Swim Run. Justin couldn't do it, got sick. James, you took that solo and you you just had a time with it, and you decided that swim run was for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, even before training for Folsom swimmer, the first time I went out to Natoma with a proper swim run wetsuit, I was like, "This is it, man! This is amazing." The ability to just be swimming and be like, "I'm going to get out here," and then go run, and then get back. It was just completely so different from all the triathlon training. It's so like regimented and just it just feels more sanitized. And this was like so adventurous to be able to just go out and do kind of whatever you want. So yeah, the race was a blast. And I think even before the race, like Folsom that first year, we had started talking about doing other races next year, bigger races. So we were hooked from the get-go.
Yeah, Justin, you probably had that really good Catalina experience, which I know was a lot of fun. I don't what distance you did the experience or the sprint?
I think, right?
The sprint one?
No, we just did the experience, and like I said, I really did not know what the heck to expect. And
yeah, so okay,
good.
you all really felt like you hit it off, you caught the bug right away, and it sounds based on some of what you were sharing a little bit earlier. It's hey, let's jump in with both feet. Let's tackle a couple of other races. What were some of your first races coming on there? This would have been 2023 then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I had convinced Lauren back in 2022, my wife. It was like, okay, I'm just going to do one race this year, and then got COVID, couldn't do it, and so then she let me do Austin, and then I hopped in CIM relay and plus some extra mileage, and then James and I were mapping out, and I think we determined like our A race was going to be Orcas for 2023.
Nice.
Yeah. And this was like we sat down and like got beers at the beginning of the season. We're like talking about Orcas, and we're like, yeah, let's do Orcas this year. And this is back when they used to do like the decaying points where you do races, and the next year those races would be like half the points. We're like, yeah, and then the year after maybe we'll see how it goes, and we'll do a couple other races. We'll just do Orcas this year. And then we had Folsom on the calendar too as like a tune-up for that. But Orcas was pretty much it. It was kind of like the main event for 2023. Train the whole year up for that, and that was a blast.
Yeah, Orcas is a magical race. I mean, talk about the places where Swimrun can take you. That's probably not one you probably would think of, right off the top of your head. It's just such an amazing destination for a race. At what point did you guys start thinking about your kind of Attila journey? Because, spoiler alert, you guys ended up doing the World Championship last year, 2024, which we're obviously going to talk about. But at what point were you like, hey, you know what? Should we put this on our sites?
It was that first sit down at the beginning of 2023, and it was like I feel like we were both dancing around the issue, trying not to look like the crazy guy in the room. Was like, is this something you might want to do? Go to Sweden and do this crazy race? And it was like, yes, like absolutely, let's go. So yeah, it was like from the get go, it was like that was the goal. And yeah, Orcas was supposed to be kind of the first toe in the water there, and then we had plans for 2024 to stack some more points. And I think it was always kind of like this 2025 is supposed to be the target year. And we just kind of speed ran it a little bit.
Yeah, and that was because, so for a little bit of context, so that was a year that Attila changed their ranking system, and also announced, was it when they announced that Attila USA was starting? So basically what was Odyssey Swimrun Austin at the last minute became an Attila event. So a bunch of people just stacked a ton of points, which essentially accelerated to now last year, 2024, like way more American teams qualifying because they essentially had an extra bite at the apple just by the way it worked out. So I guess you guys fell within that boat. And I think it was a little close, but when you guys put in your bid, I mean, it looked pretty good. I remember, Justin, you and I talking about it. I'm like, I actually think you guys have a pretty decent chance of getting in. So you guys get in a year ahead of schedule, this is some advice we got way back, is like you should do the world champs before you think you're ready for it, because spoiler alert, you're never really truly going to be ready for it. Shout out the Baverna brothers, Broderna Baver. That's what they were
the
called.
Beaver Brothers.
Beaver Brothers, yeah. So you guys qualify. Now that's obviously all of a sudden life comes into focus, very very specific focus as to what your year is going to look like. Tell us how you kind of came around sort of accepting that that's happening, and kind of how was your goal setting and sort of planning for that go?
I mean, I remember when Swimrun Christmas, when I found out, it was like, is this for real? Is this a joke? And I woke Lauren up, and I was like, Lauren, we're going to Sweden. And she's like, yeah, okay, cool. Let me go back to sleep. And then I think, Chris, I reached out to you next, and I was like, oh shit, what do I do? Like, what do I do? How do I train? And that's when you like went into like super help mode right away, and you connected us to Coach Liz that day, and we were like, that weekend it was like, okay, let's go. We have a plan, but I don't think like it did not set in for me, like the magnitude, until I think we were on the ferry in the morning, and James saw me like freaking out. My kangaroo top had ripped, and I had a thermal on, and I was like overheating. And I was like, I'm not wearing this. I'm not going to do this. And then that's when the nerves went in. Even like a week before, we were on a WhatsApp chain, like with all the Americans, and people were like, water's pretty cold. It's 49 degrees. And I was like, no, it's not 49. I was in like super denial of what we were going to face that day.
I had a super similar experience. Like I had like they had the rankings released before Swimming Christmas, right? So you could kind of like count and do the math, and I was like, oh man, like, I think we might actually get in. And my initial thought was like, I hope we don't get in, because if we get in, we're gonna go do it, right? And I don't know, it just, you know, that whole idea of doing it before you're ready, I felt like we were not anywhere near ready at the time. And yeah, it was just like panicking. What do we do? How can we cram as much as possible into this year? And like Liz was just like a lifesaver. I think she knows the race. She knows what it takes to go and perform well. So it could kind of just, I think a week after we found out, we were both on the phone with her and getting signed up to start training. So that helped immensely. But yeah, it was just like, I felt like anxiety building from February until September the whole time. But you know, I think I had a little bit of a different experience the morning of the ferry. My anxiety peaked sitting in that auditorium watching the hype video.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of fit people in that room. It's, oh man, this is the real deal. And then you're watching, we're going to do that tomorrow. Are we sure? And then I just kind of like, oh, hey, you know, I can control what I can control. I did the training. I'm here. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And it kind of just broke through, and the anxiety was, but yeah, it was, that whole year was just like, how is this going to happen? It was almost like just denying that it's actually, we're going to Sweden and we're going to do this race. So I'm just, you know, take it one day at a time.
Yeah. And very, very wise of you all to get some professional help on the coaching front. One, to make sure you get there fit, but also not injured. I mean, it would be very easy to get very overwhelmed by such a substantial race and, go get injured and go hurt yourself there. But it was really cool to see you all at Folsom Swimrun this year. You did the double race
double.
as well.
The chipper double.
Which
it's called the chipper double.
So that was great. And, obviously following you all in the Low Tide Boyz Strava Club, and, seeing you putting the work in, it was like, okay, we saw the work being put in. We're like, they're going to have a great day out there. And then we saw you at Folsom, and that was a pretty good time. And I think you finished the short course. Literally, I think they were just about to blow the whistle, or like, we're about to start, but there's one team finishing the short course, and I'm like, oh, that's Sight the Beam right there. They'll hold the line, and then you guys jumped right in.
That's just the way we drew it up. We wanted it to be one continuous long day. Right? That was on purpose, totally.
Yeah, no downtime, no downtime between the two races. Just keep it going.
Yeah, and there was a third team that day that was also doing Worlds. Kara, I forget her partner's name, but yeah, and they also did the chipper double just to get a long training day in, which was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Go ahead. So your training, your anxiety is doing what it's doing. You show up in Sweden. You've obviously listened to the Low Tide Boyz course previews episodes and all that stuff. I was anytime Justin's anxiety was peaking, I was getting text messages and, gladly answering them. No worries there. You get to Sweden, you start experiencing it. Did you guys have a similar experience to us where you're, we obviously love the sport. We're super fanboys, but it almost felt like you're on like hallowed ground. Hey, this feels like a pilgrimage to the birthplace of the sport. Did you guys kind of get those vibes when you got there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like that bus from Central Station to go out to, where everyone stays the night before, it just felt, special. And it was very much that hallowed ground feeling. I will say that it was almost hard to get in the zone there because there was so much buzz about the conditions, right? And then it started pouring the night before and it rained like clear through. So it was hard to be like, oh, this is so cool. It's, swimrun summer camp. Because this is like, everything's real wet and it's going to be real slippery and all that. So yes, but I think also just all the buzz about what the next day was going to be like was there too.
Yeah, the Swedes do play it like very calm and cool, but when you're there, everyone's, oh, what suit are you wearing? What's the temperature? Everyone, the pre-race nerves are very very buzzing, I think, as you put it. And yeah, like when you're there, oh, shit's getting serious right now. But then when you're there and it starts raining, you're like, oh, it's really getting serious. So I mean, that is that's an aspect to the race that we haven't dealt with. But how did you guys kind of rally your energy and your nerves to like combat what was going to be one of the tougher editions of Attila?
Well, I mean, we didn't know if it was that was just the only time we've done it, right? So it's like we found out after the fact. It was like, hey, these conditions were really bad and it was super hard. I was like, oh, good. Like it felt super hard, so that I'm glad to hear that. But it was almost I don't know how it was for you, Justin. Like once the race started, it was like we're in it, and just it's super cool to be in it. That first swim obviously is just epic, and then I think at that point you're so focused on being in it that you're not thinking about the whole thing. It's just like you're kind of like, how do I make it to the next place I need to be without falling or having something bad happen to you. So it was like once the race started, it all kind of just clicked together. Not to say that we had an easy time with it at all. I think we had a pretty difficult time with it, but yeah, I think once you got into it, you're there.
Well, walk us through some of the high points and low points of the, we can just like honorable mention poop swim. That's always a low point. It just is what it is. But yeah, like just give us a little bit of flavor of what your race experience was. Again, I mean, for us, it was like, we know all the spots. We've memorized the map and it's, oh man, we're here now. This is so wild. While at the same time, we're like, okay, we've still got a job to do here. So it was very much like a mix of being in awe and trying to be really present while at the same time being like, kind of looking at the watch, be like, are we going to be all right here? And all that stuff.
Yeah, I think like the first swim was epic, like James said. It almost was like it felt like a triathlon. Like we were getting kicked and punched in the face, and my nerves were pretty high the first few hours, just I think because of that nervous energy that I had. And it took me a while to get into the zone, and like we wouldn't have made it without James leading all the swims because there were some like gnarly swells and conditions. But with that said, it was awesome at the same time. Like just the magnitude, the prestige, like being on hollowed ground. And then, once we got into the groove and, after we barely got past the second time check, I think that's for me when things started to calm down. I'm blanking on the island right now, but with time check 2, that was like my low point. Getting out of the water, I was cramping majorly, and James was like, we're in some time trouble, we gotta go. And like I had something happened with the tether, and we thought it snapped, but it didn't actually. After the race, I found the cable got stuck in the buoy, but that was like the low point. And then we saw Coach Nico on the course, and that was super. Like he was like, you have this much time, you gotta go. So we just went. And I think for me, after the pig swim, the pig swim has never been in a swim like that before, but James leading, we caught like 3 teams, which was
Nice.
nuts on that swim. And then I felt pretty good. And I attribute that to Coach Liz and the training plan that she instilled in us. But after that point, I was like, this is rad. This is rad.
Yeah, I feel like it was a tale of two races for us. The first half of the race was like a real struggle, and it was for a bunch of different reasons. But it was, you guys have talked about it so many times. Those first couple islands are like almost impossible to run normally. And I took a hard fall on the third island. Literally, I was standing still. There was like a choke point. It was like a conga line of people going through. I'm like stationary. And then suddenly I'm on my back. Just feet slipped out. It was just like super slick. And so that shook me up a little bit. And it was like, okay, like if I'm going to fall and I'm standing still, like I can't be like jumping on rocks and stuff. So we were really slow going for those first couple islands, but still, you're out there for 5 hours moving, so it's draining energy even though we're going slow. And then like Justin said, we hit the island where the second cutoff was, and I looked at the watch and I was like, we're gonna need to like be hammering to make this cutoff. And we took off, and I think like halfway it's like a 5K run to the cutoff, and like halfway in, like my legs are cramping and I'm like starting to bonk, and I'm like, I don't know if I can run the rest of this way. And thank God Nico was there and was like, you have this much time to go, like you're gonna make it, just go. And we were basically sprinting to make that cutoff, and we made it about 30 something seconds. Like it was a huge party there. But like at that point, after making the cutoff was the low point for me, because I knew what I had to empty to get there. I couldn't run for 15 minutes afterwards. Like I gotta like shuffle just to put calories down. And there was also the realization that like we just made that cutoff. So every team behind us is gonna go home. We're the last team in the race, so we might not see another racer for the whole rest of the day. And that's like, we got 8 hours of like solo racing, and it's wet and it's cold. And so like mentally super, super low, physically super low. But we just kind of like, started putting the calories back in and slowly chipping away. And like Justin said, the pig swim, I think you guys talk a lot of stuff about the race, like the islands, like how long Orna is and the grind. And there's this, you have to do it to fully understand, like words don't describe it. And I think it's all true. But on a lot of those things, what I thought it was going to be like was at least somewhat close. Like the pig swim was like, no, I was nowhere even close. So we turned the corner to see that swim. And it's this expanse of water, this gray sky. There's like white foam on the caps. The safety boats were like rocking up and down. And I'm like, there is no way they want us to swim across there. And this volunteers, welcome to the pig swim. You're going that way. And we couldn't even see the strobe. Yeah, she's like, there's a tower. Like she's like, this tower is like way left to where you want to get out, but it's pushing super hard right. You just swim at the tower, and good luck, I guess. So we hop in the water, and I think that was the point though where it was like, because it was so epic and so just like primal, you didn't think about, I'm in the middle of a 70K race. It was like, this is just amazing what I'm doing. And by the time
let me do this. Let me focus on this.
Yeah,
because you
one
can't
chunk.
do anything else, right? It's like I all of my attention needs to be right here, right now. But by the time we kind of like click back into it, I was like, I feel very strong right now. This is the strongest I felt all day, and I could tell we were moving. And when we finally could see land, there's all these like little red blobs moving up the cliff. And I was like, that's a bunch of teams. Like we just caught like a bunch of teams, and we're back in this. And then I think the energy just kind of built and built and built. And the whole second half of the race was like we were a brand new team. Like all of like slow going and bonking was just behind us, and we were cruising at that point. In fact, when we made the third cutoff, Stefan was there and the timekeepers were there, and they were like, yeah, we're just waiting on one more team, 33, and that was us. And they're like, wait a second, like, what are you guys doing here? How'd you make up all that time? They were shocked to see us. And I was like, yeah, we just, now we're feeling good. And it was, like, that was up until the end. That's how we felt up until the end, with the exception of Orno. We also had a very hard time there. A lot of shuffling there, but.
Yeah, Orna, that's another one where it's, you think running, 12 miles, 2/3 of the way through the race. Oh, that'll feel great. Just open the legs, shake the legs out a little bit. No,
hardly.
It's not like that at all. Real quickly, what did you guys end up doing in terms of gear? Like what did you rock for the race?
I was in the Orna X, but I think we were like one of many teams that like got off the bus and sprinted to the ARC stand to panic buy like as much neoprene as possible. So I had the thermal on, and then I had a normal kangaroo top under the thermal, and then I had the halo on too. So it was like anything I could have to have warmth, I wanted it. And even with all of that, like I didn't cab down once. I ran a lot of the short runs fully zipped up because I run pretty cold normally, but it was like I was as bundled could be. And then I bought some BJs for the race, just knowing how slick the islands were, and I'm glad I had them. But yeah, that was the gear right now for me.
Nice. I was in that Utah, and then, like I said earlier, my kangaroo top had ripped, like the side stitching had ripped the week before. And I'd reached out to Alex from ARC, and I was like, are you guys going to have any mediums? And we're not sure yet. And so we got there, and they didn't have any. And Helen was working the booth, and she's try the woman's large to see, and it was just kind of funky. So I ended up wearing my kangaroo top, and then got the thermal and put it over, just as extra layers and some extra storage, which was great. And I'm really glad I did not take the thermal off because it was cold. Also wore the Halo shoes, the Agravic Speed Ultras, and CEP socks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I also got a woman's large kangaroo top. I haven't tried it on yet, but you worried me now that it might be a little weird, as you put it. So I'll have to see how it goes. But that seems like solid kit, solid choices.
Yeah. No, it was I run pretty warm, so I capped down for quite a few of the longer runs, especially after the pig run or the pig swim.
Yeah. So you guys obviously complete the race. You get through Orna. You make it to the finish line. I mean, how cool was that?
Super cool.
It was amazing.
It was incredible.
Very cool.
Go ahead,
Justin.
No, go ahead, James.
It was amazing, right? And there was like, that last run on Utah, we're just talking, kind of reflecting on the whole day. And I felt like that was like really the big payoff was like just, realizing we had done it together and kind of helped each other get through it. I had low points, he had low points, and then crossing the finish line was also just amazing. I mean, I remember being so cold once we like stopped moving. That was a challenge too, but yeah, it was amazing. It was everything I think and more that I thought it was going to be. So just super stoked.
Yeah, same. It was amazing. Even since we crossed so late, there was only cold water in the showers. The showers still felt amazing, and the food afterwards was awesome. And yeah, just like the whole vibe was so cool. And it was really cool. Like Stefan was there in the back where we were too, like not only cheering on the athletes at the front, but like to get us through all those checkpoints at the end was just really special. And just a culmination of of course, number one, like James as a partner, but everybody else like having that feeling as we crossed the finish line was magical.
Yeah, we've heard the story about Coach Nico as well. I think from the Mama's Boys shared that as well, and I know he was cheering on and pushing other teams along. It was really cool to see that, and that's just the community aspect that we're talking about there. You're not his athletes; he could just cheer you on and give you some encouraging words, but he knew what how to motivate you all and get you across the finish line there. And I certainly remember tracking you guys and texting Liz. I'm like, just keep moving, guys. You'll make it. Just keep going. Jeez, I know they just need to keep it. So it was awesome to cheer you all on, and make a congrats on the finish there, especially after that. I mean, it takes a lot. Like you're out there for 12, 13, 14 hours, and if your first 3 or 4 hours you're not having a good time, I mean that is a lot to overcome and really persevere through. So congrats on that, and that's put that arrow in your quiver for the next time you do something tough. I think you'll be calling from that race.
Seriously, and since it's Partners Month, if you could give new partners that are showing up to something like Attila, like what advice would you give to how partners can work well together on something as epic as Worlds?
I think it helps to have a lot of patience with your partner, but also recognize that they're going to have it for you too. Like I think there were so many times, like Justin, he likes to say, "Oh, I wouldn't have made it without James pulling me on the swims." Like I for sure would not have made that second cutoff if Justin was not dragging me through it. Like there were times where I think each one of us like pulled the other one along, and so just know that going into it. I think also just for any big race, when you're at your low, you just got to wait. It's going to get better. And when you're at your high, you just got to wait because it's going to get worse. That's just the way it works, right? And so having the partner to, bounce off of and maybe they're high when you're low, it helps so much. So just trust that person and know that, they're going to be there for you. And then the day will unfold if it's going to unfold.
Yeah, I mean,
Very, very Buddhist of you. The concept of impermanence, for sure.
yeah, just echoing that. I mean, I'm so glad that James is my partner. Like, it's partner month, but yeah, I mean, like we were there for each other for the low points and the high points. And if we were doing this alone, there's no way I would have ever made it that far in the race, or even probably got to the start line without James. Like, even just like I said, on my ferry freak out on the way over to the start line, if James hadn't been there, I would have just panicked and blown all my energy. And so I'm just grateful. And I think communication is the other key thing. And I remember when like we had that tether issue, it was just like, we got to talk, let's work together so that we can finish this together.
I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds very straightforward and almost on some level like obvious, but it's not, right? Because it's so hard to do it. It's so hard to kind of put your
Yeah.
ego aside and trust your partner and be vulnerable and be like, "Hey, dude, I'm about to poop the suit," or whatever might need to happen, right? Like these things happen, right? Like you have to be able to communicate that. It's so important. I mean, you almost have to, right? So getting to a place where you have that level of trust with your partner, I mean, certainly it has to be one of the keys to success for any partnership, but certainly in swimrun where you're dealing with such, crazy elements all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, it, vulnerability, and Justin said it, the communicating. Like, I know that in previous races, like we did Folsom, like we did not communicate how we were feeling in the moment. And I think we learned from that mistake. And I think every time that I felt real bad, I was very quick to tell Justin, I'm feeling real bad. Like, if we keep running this hard, like it's not going to go well. So, just being able to say, hey, like we got to dial it down a little bit, or I'm feeling good, we can dial it up. Like, just over communicating, I think, is only going to help you.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And Chris said, like, the concepts aren't overly, they're not overly secretive or complex to figure out. It's really just executing on it, and just executing on the plan is the hardest part, and the hardest thing to do. So, you guys made it happen.
Yeah. So obviously, like the next question is, well, what's next? Team Sight the Beam. Are you guys running it back?
I mean, so we during one of our low points, it was like, let's just get through this, and we're never going to do this race again. But I think it's marinated for me. I mean, I haven't talked to James yet, but for me, it's marinated enough that, and with Lauren's permission and grace, of course,
Of course.
in the next few years, I would love to go back.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's super funny though, like sitting at the dinner the day of the race, and all the different American teams were talking to everyone's, would you do this again? And everyone was like, hell no, never again would I come out here and do this. And I was like solidly in that camp. I was like, no, like why would I do that to myself again? But like, a week later, I'm like having these visions of running through the forest in Sweden again. That was so cool. Like, why wouldn't I want to do that again? It was almost like that I, repressed the trauma of the day. And I was like, yeah, we gotta go back. So I think at some point, yes. I think this year, no. I think you don't need to convince me, Justin. You got to convince my wife and kids to go back over to Sweden again, because I'm all for it. But finding the time to go over there is tricky for sure.
Yeah, I think we're doing Catalina this year for sure. We're doing
Nice.
Whistler. We're going to do the chipper double for Folsom, and then I don't know. We'll see. We're also gonna push out the brand a little bit more. You're the first to see, but we have our new logo.
Oh,
That's what I'm
So-
talking about, Justin. That's what I'm talking about. People need to have more logos. More
Yeah,
amateur teams need to be kitted out, branded out. Kudos to the Water Buffaloes. They took our advice to heart.
definitely.
We need more of that.
That's why we did it. All the Water Buffaloes and Mama Boys rolling up in like their custom track suits. I was like,
Yeah.
we look like rookies out here, man. We got to get some merch and some
Amateur
shirts. Yeah.
Seriously.
I love the call back to the Sacramento Kings there. So very good. Fellow NorCal natives, or not natives, but residents rather.
that's right. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, well,
well,
I guess with that.
stoked to see you all at Catalina. That'll be a good time. And the Whistler, Whistler's going to be awesome, no doubt on that one. But you have some serious mileage under your belts now with the ÖTILLÖ, so everything will be kind of a walk in the parks, so to speak, so to speak.
I saw that Catalina course profile. That's not true at all. That's going to be a big day for sure. Like,
No, there will be
I see
walking.
those hills.
There will be walking.
yeah.
There will be walking.
It's
in Catalina.
literally a walk. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. We're going to have a ton of content coming out on that. So make sure you stay tuned to the feed for that. But yeah, Justin, James, thank you guys so much for coming on to kick off Partners Month 2025 with us. Appreciate your support of us and our show, and looking forward to seeing you in Catalina and Folsom for sure.
Thank you for having us, guys.
Thanks
It's an
again
honor.
for having us. Yeah.
An honor?
Honor's ours.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run,
And then a swim,
then another run,
then another swim.
then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.